Hello, and welcome to Federal News Network. I'm Vanessa Roberts, and my guest today is Michael D'Onofrio. He's a Senior Advisor for Federal Solutions at Tyler Technologies. Today we'll be talking about the Evidence Act, where agencies are on their milestones, but also how agencies can continue to make progress in gathering and using data to perform better. Welcome, Mike. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Vanessa.
So let's set the stage a little bit for what we're going to talk about. It's been nearly 4 years since work began on meeting the mandates of the Evidence Act, or as it's known in full, the Foundations for Evidence-Based Policymaking Act. Agencies are now supposed to be at the continuing development implementation stage. Is that really where you see agencies, or where are they on their journey and really using data to achieve their goals, making it more accessible, discoverable, and available?
Great question. I think all of the agencies are really benefiting from having clear guidance and objectives for what the Evidence Act outlines. I think in years past it was just called good government. Now it's called law. We see all of our customers and across the federal government on a continuum. And we think that over time the objective is to continue to evolve along that continuum. Most of the organizations have created the data catalogs to support discovery of the data sets and assets that they've got within their organizations. They've created learning agendas to identify cross-organizational priorities and hard-to-answer questions that they want to focus their efforts on with data. And I think the greatest opportunity is really in the collaboration to create those consumable information products or pieces of evidence that help policymakers make informed decisions on future budgets, on program funding, to identify those things that work and clearly fund those as opposed to those that don't work as well. So the continuum's been great. The one example I might provide is at Department of Transportation, where we've been the long-term data platform and enterprise data catalog. Over time, what we've seen is an increase in the use of the data to create consumable information products, thus improving the way in which information is disseminated out into their stakeholders, which are states and cities and counties. And so when we looked at solving for underserved populations, the ability to amplify their data analytical skills by consumable information products that the federal government creates is really an advantage for both groups.
And I'm just curious, as a follow-up to that, are you seeing more collaboration across agencies too? I mean, obviously collaboration within an agency is critical, but a lot of these programs, as you alluded to just now, they're not only just consumed or used by state and local governments, but they're also used by one another, right?
Yeah, the collaboration's been fantastic. We have a term we call connected communities, and it's great to see connected communities across program areas, across agencies, across the department. These federal departments are massive. And so the opportunity to collaborate around data and use other folks' data in the analysis that you're pursuing has been fantastic. Beyond the departmental bounds, though, you're right. The ability to use other federal data in Department of Transportation or elsewhere has been fantastic. Great example, Census has a very robust and mature data program. And as the current administration has a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, that lens is often provided through census data. And so we're working with our customers to bring that census data into the environment to be able to collaborate and combine with their own operational data to add that lens of diversity, equity, inclusion. The number of examples are numerous, but it's fantastic to see that sharing and collaboration across. And I think they've also done a really nice job of creating structure behind it with the CDO Council. They're actually promoting the collaboration between departments, which is fantastic to see. And of course, representing our customers, 27,000 state and local government customers, they have a desire and an appetite to consume this data as well. And so being able to bridge those communities has been really exciting, and getting that data in the hands of the folks out into the state and local community.
Right, we're trying to carry out the actual mission and deliver on the services, right?
Exactly.
So talk a little bit about, you talked about the Department of Transportation. Maybe you want to talk about them more, or you want to talk about some other agencies, but maybe, what are some lessons learned you've seen happening over the time? It's been, like I said, it's been about 4 years. So by now there's definitely things that people learn, like what works, what doesn't work, and how to help one another, right?
It really has. So the Evidence Act, part of it includes the Open Government Data Act, which is really the benefit behind open data. And so take, for example, a customer like the Centers for Disease Control. And so they've been using our platform for a number of years for open data. And a lot of the data that was disseminated was research information, one-time studies, annual reports, things of that nature. With the onset of the COVID pandemic, the demand for more real-time surveillance data just was extremely amplified. And so it was a great example of where open data now became a conduit of information out into the broader communities, by which all the research communities, all the newspapers, all the medical institutions were now consuming this data and making informed decisions on their communities on a near real-time basis. And so I think it's really been a great example of how open data, the Evidence Act in general, has evolved from a compliance exercise to really being that of necessity. And I think it's become amplified during COVID, but if you look at any of the other government programs, there's still an opportunity to improve that bi-directional flow of data so that the decisions made across that ecosystem are more informed and timely.
What are some of the challenges that you see that agencies face when they try to achieve that?
One of the bigger challenges is dealing with the complexity and reality of the current IT environment in federal entities. There's no shortage of systems, and so what we're seeing our customers do, and many other customers do, is find ways to complement and amplify their existing investments. Recognize that mission critical systems aren't going to go away. They have a specific need, but what's important is that we're able to obtain and share the data within those systems for other purposes outside of that particular program. And so what we really focus in on is enabling our customers to support data discovery, data access, and data collaboration. And so discovery is about finding things. We put data and assets in a catalog. We make them discoverable with metadata to describe them and facilitate search and search engine optimization to get those in the hands of the people that need them. Once they discover their asset, it's important that they be able to access the data. And using interoperable standards allows people to connect to the data in a way like never before. We shouldn't have to download it. We shouldn't have to ask for it. The concept of an application programming interface allows us to physically connect to that data really in perpetuity so that it can create value downstream. The last component is around collaboration. There's a lot of different tools that people use to drive insights. The important part is that we're able to bring those together into a workspace and complement them with narrative and evidence to tell the story of what those dashboards and scorecards are doing. And so what we focus on is really enabling data discovery, data access, and collaboration, and doing that with functional and technical interoperability in the current IT landscapes across the federal government.
Let's talk about why a data sharing platform is such an essential ingredient here, and how that allows you to, as an agency, both move forward and make use of the data and make decisions, but also take advantage of the legacy systems you have.
Absolutely. There's two key themes that I talk about here. It's really around functional interoperability and technical interoperability. Using data is not easy. There's a complex series of processes that take place to extract, transform, load, store, access, analyze, curate, etc. And so the ability for everybody to use data as a strategic asset is somewhat obfuscated by the challenges of doing those complex things. Our platform, we really strive to provide an intuitive user interface to simplify the interaction of doing those complex functions across the entire data value chain. This is important because it lowers the barriers to using data as a strategic asset. It's also very well aligned with the first pillar of the Evidence Act for everybody becoming a bit more data literate. The second component really is around technical interoperability. Recognizing that there is existing investments in technology, we want to make sure that we're not recreating things at every turn. And so our platform is an open platform that allows organizations to use their existing data tools to plug into our open analytics ecosystem, and thus not just shift the workload, but also create an opportunity to collaborate. When we support that collaboration pillar, it's really around bringing together analytics and insights from all the competitive analytical tools and providing a workspace for people to share. As we go through the process of disseminating that information, we can govern it within our organization, and eventually we can govern it and disseminate it out as an open data asset for the public to consume.
So you talked about reducing barriers just there. Let's talk about a little bit beyond that, though. It also can help with the idea of digital transformation, right? I mean, because that's really the ultimate goal of a lot of agencies. There are a lot of programs happening in tandem in every agency, right? So there's a lot of digital transformation efforts, but talk to this particular law and how it's also maybe helping drive some of that, right?
Absolutely. If you look at the second pillar of the Evidence Act, which is the enterprise catalogs and accessible data, once you have your data in a format that can be used across the organization, you can then drive downstream use of that, whether it be through customer relationship, whether it be through surveys, whether it be through interacting with your constituents. And so having that authoritative repository of data by which all the department members can now use in creating those consumable information products, I think creates value. The concept of a consumable information product is really going beyond just the dissemination of evidence or a dashboard. It's an ability to then use that consumable information product in a jurisdiction outside of the federal government. So for a county to focus in on what's important to them, for a city in an underserved area to focus in on what's important to them. And so a lot of what we've been working with our customers on is building their digital transformation strategy such that it can evolve and be applicable to local communities and therefore the people that they solve, further reducing that digital divide.
So I'm going to pull at one little string for a second, which is that idea of the barriers and also of maybe training. And if you see changes in the expectation to be able to access this kind of data from younger people coming into the federal workforce, but also how and what's needed when it comes to training as you want to use data more.
So data literacy is important. It's highlighted as a key tenet of the Evidence Act. The goal is to improve literacy across the board. And so when we look at the program managers and the folks who are in leadership positions that have been there for a while, they may not have a background in data science. And if we look at the next generation who are coming in with very advanced degrees in data science and all sorts of great technology that they know how to use, how do we bridge that divide and facilitate collaboration to connect those communities? Our platform, I think, is well suited in that we provide a common denominator for data by putting it into a catalog, by having it accessible in an interoperable format. Folks can connect to it using their tools of choice. So we can meet the needs of the current generation, and then we can collaborate and share that narrative and context, which might be better suited for the folks who've been there for a little bit longer to tell the story. Right. And so the combination of the two, I think, has been really interesting. In terms of ongoing training, I think that's going to be a long-term opportunity for us. Data skills have greatly advanced. For specialists, I think the objective over the coming years is to evolve that to become more common knowledge across the organization to use data in our everyday business.
Well, that's great. We're going to take a quick break. I'm Vanessa Roberts. I'm here with Tyler Tex, Mike D'Onofrio, and this is Federal News Network.